Three main points. The first has to do with the question of the Sino-Soviet split and its effect on the movement in Africa. And I know that Abiomi will speak on this too. I'll just mention the effect it had inside Ethiopia. There was a party in Ethiopia that called itself the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Party, which was considered to be aligned with this Chinese position. Now, we should know this about the split. When the split began, it was thoroughly progressive on the part of China. The criticisms of the leadership in the Soviet Union as being revisionist, as moving away from support for the world revolution, for the liberation movements, wanting to find some way to accommodate with imperialism, have peaceful coexistence, and so on. It was thoroughly progressive. But as time went on, it became more and more of an acrimony between two branches of the communist movement in the world, and even to the point of almost a territorial dispute between China and the Soviet Union at one point. It lost its early progressive character. Now in Ethiopia, the EPRP, when they saw that the Soviet Union was supporting the Derg, they came out in armed struggle against the Derg, and were part of, in effect, they were in alliance with the reactionary forces because they were carrying out armed attacks upon the Derg. So that's just one example of this. Here in this country, the parties and movements and other papers that were generally considered Maoist at the time were not for the Ethiopian Revolution. I want to give as a main example the Guardian newspaper, which was not a party, but it was it was sort of the party-building tendency that was sort of pro-China. And they ran week after week after week articles attacking Ethiopia and supporting the Eritrean struggle at one point, the Somali, what they called an indigenous movement of the Somali Liberation Front. And the interesting thing about those articles is they weren't even written by somebody who was a leftist. They were written by a guy named Dan Connell, who had been a reporter for the Boston Globe. And he was shopping around to get somebody to run his articles. And he was trying to get his stuff into the progressive press. He called us. And he said, I'm going to Ethiopia. I'm going over to the Horn of Africa. And he wasn't in Ethiopia ever, I don't think. He was in the Horn of Africa. And I'm going to be writing dispatches, and I'd like to send them to your newspaper. And we said, no thanks. We determine ourselves what our paper is going to say on this. But that's just one example, of what was happening, how the damage that the split had on the movements in Africa at that time. Second, I wanted to mention on Eritrea. We were not the only political tendency to recognize the severe danger that the capture, really, of the Eritrean movement by reaction could have, both in Eritrea and on Ethiopia. I want to mention a statement that was made by the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine in August of 1977, when they called for the formation of a national progressive front made up of the Derg and the progressive Eritrean movement. They called for them to join forces with Eritrea. And by the way, much more information than I can give here is contained in this pamphlet, The Ethiopian Revolution, which we put out back then, which has articles by a number of our comrades, reprints from our paper, including our comrade Sam Marcy, who visited Ethiopia. Sam was not, although he was head of the party, he was not a globetrotter. He didn't run off to this conference and that conference and all over. He only went to a few things outside the United States. He focused on organizing this party. But he went to Ethiopia because he considered the Ethiopian Revolution so important. Anyway, in this pamphlet, we not only have this statement by the very important Palestinian revolutionary group, but also, and this was not otherwise much reported in the left here at all, we also have a statement from the Egyptian National Democratic Movement, which was fighting against the Sadat regime in Egypt at the time. And they made an appeal to the Eritreans. And they said, break your alliance with reaction and imperialism and join forces with the Ethiopian Revolution. That was also in the fall of 1977. Finally, what I wanted to mention was on the question of building a party. And one of our comrades talked about, think about Workers' World Party, think about joining a party. Well, they had a big problem in the Ethiopian Revolution. They didn't have a real party. I mean, there were parties, but they were very limited in their geographical scope, in their development, in their roots in the masses. And Mengistu tried. They tried after they had, broken the old state power. They really tried to develop a party, a revolutionary Marxist-Leninist party among the masses. And you could see it. I know when I was there, everything that I went to, there would be soldiers, and there would be civilians. And the civilians, women and men, who were the cadres. There was a party called the Mayasan that was allied with the Derg. That was the one left party that was a firm ally. But there were other people too who came out of the left movement who were not military. And they would be together with the people in uniform, organizing the meetings, taking us on trips. It was clear there was an interaction going on that the leaders who had come out of the military considered to be a very healthy development and were trying to promote. And I think we also take this into heart ourselves. You can't wait until there's a revolutionary situation to build a party. You got to start now.
Okay.